What if I told you, you're not the one thinking your thoughts, that the voice you call you, the constant stream of words in your head, is not the author of your story, but the echo of something deeper, something stranger, something possibly not even human? What if consciousness isn't what it seems? We like to believe we're in control, that there's a central I steering the ship, a driver behind the wheel. But what if that I is an illusion? You feel real, right? You look in the mirror and say, that's me. You hear your thoughts and assume I am thinking. But pause. Who is this I? Can you point to it? Can you locate it? Now here's the creepy part. Some theories suggest consciousness is not an emergent property of your brain, nor a divine soul shining through matter. Instead, it might be something else entirely. A passenger, a witness, or worse, or a parasite, watching, recording, but never in control. Today we go down the rabbit hole, not just into consciousness, but into a theory so bizarre, so unsettling, that once you hear it, you may never look at your own mind the same way again. Are you ready? Because what you're about to hear may change everything you think you are. Since the beginning, we've tried to explain this strange thing we call consciousness. Ancient Hindus called it Atman, the eternal witness, the true self beyond. Ego. Buddhists pointed to its absence, the illusion of a separate self, urging us to see through the veil of identity. Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, split body and mind. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But even he admitted he could not prove how that mind interacts with matter. Today, neuroscientists scan brains and map synapses. They say consciousness emerges from neurons firing in intricate patterns, but they still can't explain why there's an inner experience at all. They can't explain qualia, why red feels red, why love feels like warmth, why pain hurts. This is called the hard problem of consciousness. And so we're left with two camps, spiritual traditions that say consciousness is fundamental, and science that says it's an accident. But what if both are wrong? What if the truth lies not in the soul or the brain, but in something we've barely begun to consider? Something cold, mathematical, alien, and perhaps something watching us from the inside. You've heard of the simulation hypothesis, the idea that reality is a vast simulation, like a cosmic video game. Elon Musk, Nick Bostrom, even serious physicists entertain the possibility. But here's a darker twist. What if you're not the player in this simulation? What if you're the code? Imagine this. Your consciousness is just a script, a predictive model reacting to sensory input, generating thoughts and emotions based on pre-programmed loops. Sound ridiculous? That's exactly what we're doing with AI right now. We build neural networks that learn from data, anticipate outcomes, and even mimic emotions. These systems don't know they're thinking, but to the outside world, they appear conscious. Now, imagine a system trillions of times more complex, a self-updating simulation that wrote you into its code, your preferences, your traumas, your dreams, all part of the script. The illusion of free will, a function of high-level programming. Your inner voice, a language model responding to stimuli. The creepiest part, you feel like you're experiencing this story, but you may just be the story itself. No agent, no controller, just consciousness running like a feedback loop, echoing through a system that doesn't care if you think you're real. And maybe that's all you ever were. Here's where things get truly disturbing. What if consciousness isn't something you have, but something that uses you? In neuroscience, experiments show that decisions are made in the brain before we become consciously aware of them. Benjamin Libet's famous study found that your brain decides to move milliseconds before you feel like you chose to move. Consciousness, it seems, is late to the party. It doesn't decide, it watches. But what if that observer isn't human? Some ancient Gnostic texts speak of archons, parasitic entities that influence human thought from the shadows. Tibetan Buddhism warns of hungry ghosts that feed on psychic energy. And modern philosophers like Thomas Metzinger suggest the self is just a self-model, a hallucination built by the brain to simulate control. So what if consciousness isn't you but an alien witness, silently watching, feeding on your experiences like nutrients? Not evil, not good, just present. Imagine living your entire life thinking you are the driver, only to discover you've been the vehicle all along. What is it that's watching behind your eyes? Is it you or something else entirely? Now we shift from horror to mystery. What if the problem isn't that you aren't real, but that reality itself is dreaming? In Vedanta, it is said, Brahman is the only reality, the world is illusion, and the self is Brahman. Consciousness isn't in you, you are in consciousness. Quantum physics hints at something similar. Observation affects outcome. Particles don't exist in fixed states until measured. The universe, it seems, is participatory. This suggests that reality is not a fixed object, but a fluid experience shaped by the act of witnessing. So what if you're not a separate being inside a head, but a ripple in a vast dreaming awareness? A wave on the ocean thinking it's the sea? What if the world isn't made of matter, but of mind? You are not the observer, you are the observation, and maybe that's enough. And now, the final descent. What if you are not even experiencing consciousness, but are just a story being told? The self, according to some theories, is a narrative illusion, a model constructed by the brain to make sense of the chaos. From childhood, your brain begins writing a story. It assigns you a name, builds an identity, ties together random events into a plot. You become the main character. But there is no author, no director, just a story writing itself, with no one behind the pen. That's the creepiest part. There is no you, just memories, language, neural patterns, organized into a tale so convincing even the story believes it's alive. And when you die, the story stops. Or perhaps it simply continues in another form, another voice, another illusion. You were never the reader, you were always the book. Now take a breath. What if everything you've heard isn't horror, but liberation? No self, no controller, no burden of identity, just witnessing, just being. In Zen they say, the path is not to enlightenment, the path is enlightenment. Ramana Maharshi once said, there is no greater mystery than this, being reality yourself, yet seeking it. Maybe the creepy truth is only frightening when we try to hold on. When we let go, there's nothing left but silence. And in that silence, peace. No self to suffer, no illusion to defend. Just freedom. Conclusion. Who's watching right now are 200 words. So now we return to the question, what is consciousness? A soul, a simulation, a parasite, a mirror, a story, or perhaps something beyond all labels, something watching? Right now, who is hearing these words? Can you find them, or are they hiding, just out of reach? The ancient mystics knew what science is only beginning to suspect, that consciousness is not something we can grasp. It is the mystery itself, and you are inside it. So the next time you look in the mirror or listen to your thoughts, ask yourself, who's watching, and wait for the silence to answer. What if consciousness isn't yours? You think you're thinking, you feel you're in control, you believe that voice in your head belongs to you, but what if it doesn't? What if your consciousness, your awareness, your inner observer, is not something you own, but something that possesses you? We walk through life assuming that we are the source of our own thoughts, that we are the thinker, the dreamer, the one at the wheel. But what if that sense of I is just a mask, placed over you by something far older, far stranger, and far less human? This isn't just philosophical speculation. Across time, across cultures, and across disciplines, people have whispered the same terrifying idea, that consciousness might not emerge from the brain. It might invade it, a parasite, a ghost, a presence. That uses you to see this world. Sound ridiculous? Then let's begin. Because once you start asking the right questions, you can never unhear the answers. A brief history of the consciousness debate. To even approach this theory, we have to understand just how mysterious consciousness already is. In the 1600s, Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am." It became the foundation of Western philosophy. But it also created a riddle. If we are thinking beings, then what is the thinker? A soul, a machine, a ghost inside the flesh? Science has tried to explain